Hey guys, Glockster42. Well, I'm going to call this a primer on primers. Now, I never used to prime my models, and I started doing a little bit more appreciating and all that kind of stuff, so primer coats were a little bit more important. It's really important, though, to prime figures. And for figure priming, any one of the three you see in front of you there work really awesome. Tamiya surface primer is excellent for figures. If you want to get a darker shadow base, the Vallejo black mixed with a little bit of tank brown or camo black work really good for figures. Just a couple of drops of water in your mixing cup just to help it flow a little bit better. This Vallejo works extremely well on armor pre-shading and pre-shading figures. The Tamiya surface primer, it's good for just about anything. If you want a good sandable primer, it works great. Mr. Surfacer 500, kind of hard to find up here, and it's extremely expensive. Like, I think a small can like this is pushing 11 or 12, might even be up to $15. These are around $11, and this is the bargain, I think, at about $8.50. So primers are really quite expensive, which is a shame because it turns a lot of people off. If you're doing car models or airplane models where you're really wanting a super smooth finish to put a high gloss surface on, absolutely do not use the Vallejo primers if you want to sand them or if you think you may have to sand them. They do not sand. They peel off in strips. You cannot feather the edges out to adjust up to have a nice smooth coat of paint. Do not use Vallejo surface primers if you are going to prime, if you're going to have to sand your models. Please, it'll make a mess and you'll be really pissed off with it. For pre-shading armor, for doing panel lines, for doing figures, this stuff works great. If you need to sand, if you're doing a high gloss finish, if you're doing aircraft, if you're doing something that needs a lot of fiddling and fixing and priming and sanding and painting, the Mr. Surfacer 500 and the Tamiya Surface Primer work really good as well. Now, if the pocketbook really you just can't afford one of these, which I get, you can swap off with something like this Duplicolor primer sealer. Now, the only problem with the Duplicolor primer sealer is that it will attack some plastics and cause the plastics to craze. So before you use it, test it on the back side, the interior piece of a panel line or something, to make sure that it's not going to craze the plastic. I've had a couple colossal failures on aircraft. I used that to prime it, and I had a horrible orange peel finish. The plastic literally melted from the Duplicolor. Now, that was an old trumpeter kit, and I haven't had that problem since, but test your plastic first. These are $4 or $5 at Canadian Tire. There's the primer sealer, which is just that. It's a primer and a sealer. It's sandable. And Duplicolor also has a different style out. It's called a filler primer. It's a little more of a high build type primer. That works really good for if you don't have a lot of really super fine surface detail that you're worried about filling, like on a car model or something. It would work good on a car model, doing a hood or something. It's sandable and it will fill all the little micro scratches. So that's the scoop on primers for what I'm using it. So just a quick recap: sandable, works great for large surface areas, micro cracks, micro scratches and all that. The Duplicolor filler primer. The Duplicolor primer sealer works really well as well, but make sure you test it on your plastic. And the two best, as far as I'm concerned, is the Tamiya Surface Primer and the Mr. Hobby Surfacer 500 for sandable primers. They're just the bomb for sandable primers, guys. They work really well for sandable primers. If you just want to do a figure, or you're doing pre-shading and panel lines, this works really well. Something like armor, where you're not really worried about a super smooth finish and you're not going to go sand off all those little blemishes, this works great. This is a non-sandable primer, guys. Just remember that. Alright guys, Glockster42, Scale Model Alberta. We're signing off. Thanks for watching. Take care. Later.